Hello and welcome to Create a FinTech Startup. My name is Nicole and Jessica Dawson is my co-founder, and we are here to tell you exactly how to create a FinTech startup, being completely transparent and giving you all the secrets that we've learned from reading and personal experiences. Jessica, how are you?
First off, thank you for stopping in to watch the video. I am doing wonderful. I'm in Orlando, Florida, and I believe Nicole is in Savannah, Florida today.
Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia, pardon me. But we want to give you a very good story on how we started, so you can see what we went through, what mistakes we have made, and where we're going in the future. Nicole and I have been working together for quite a while. We've known each other for almost 5 years. But the story of my entrepreneurship is a little bit different from Nicole's. She has some background on her own. I have tried to get into the fintech or the development side quite a few years ago. And Nicole will probably ask me a few questions about that here shortly. But if you want to definitely go far and you do have a co-founder, you need to make sure you have the right one. And I do have the right one.
Well, that's very nice of you. So again, we're going to lay the framework out and tell you exactly how we did it, how we're doing it, and how to not do it, I guess, is a better way of saying it. So today's episode is all about discovery and what to do when you have that light bulb moment and that idea. So talking about that idea, Jessica, when Fisk Mobile Investments came to you, when the 55th degree idea came to you, how did you know that you had an idea, first of all, and how did you know that this was the idea that you wanted to run with?
First off, the 55th degree has been a lifelong work. It's a very interesting concept. I tried to started to get going back in 2010. It got side railed when I got in a motorcycle accident, and I had to pause everything. That application is now standard on Samsung phones. But in 2019, I had another idea for an application, was starting to get it underway. Nicole actually had helped me form that company. I was working with somebody else, or with the 55th degree, and COVID hit. Couldn't raise funds, so had to pause again. In this past year, or excuse me, in December of last year, I was at work. I used to work in retail at Home Depot. And I was working in the paint department. That was where I had been presently positioned. I've loved slinging paint. It is a lot of fun. I love helping customers. And when you give great customer service at any place that normally does not give tips, that you could tell when a customer does want to help you out for giving that awesome customer service. And one day I'd been working there, and a gentleman heard me explain a process of how to keep his information in our computer that was very simple, is organized. And then he stepped around to the front of the counter as I was helping the next person behind him. And he came up and asked, why was he hearing something come out of my mouth that he had never heard before? And he'd been shopping at Home Depot for over 3 years. He wanted to give me a tip at that point in time after I told him the reason. I believe that the customer should be able to come in, get their paint, and get out so they can get back to their job and making more money. And I was a 25-year vet. I want people to be happy with my customer service. That's what we're there for. But when I stepped back away after I got the line down, I thought about what it would be to get a tip in this day and age. How could someone get one with the technology we have? And that is when the application idea came to me. I went home The very next day, I called Nicole on the phone and told her the concept and told her I was going to run with it.
So back to when you had the idea while you're slinging paint. Hopefully you're not slinging paint around. This is just
This is a term.
okay. I like it. So you had stepped away and the idea of how to receive a tip in this modern day came to you. How did you know that this is the one you wanted to go home and marinate on and then call up a potential co-founder or partner?
To me, it's all about helping people. It doesn't matter. Our whole country is based on customer service or the service industry. And that's what I do all day is help people. I enjoy doing what I'm doing. It's rewarding. But there's a lot of people around the store that need help with finances.
Sure.
We're on a flat rate, and I figured if I could create something mobile that they would be able to receive a little bit extra, that would, improve their future
Yeah.
and brighten their day.
So the light bulb moment or the idea moment that you know it's the right one is sort of like love. You can't really quantify it. It's just a feeling then. Is that right?
Yes, you can feel how important it is that this app comes into reality. Nicole and I have, of course, I've been out quite a bit. Nicole stays more in the office and is running everybody while I'm out networking. And everybody that I come in contact with is blown away by this concept. They keep telling us that they've never heard of that. Why? I would never have thought of that. And the way it is, it helps people and a large capacity, and it's very simple. That was something that we created is very simple.
So likely if you're here watching this show, you do have an idea and that lightning moment has struck you and that feeling has hit you. So now you want to know how to run with that. So we're going to talk about discovery today. Jessica, when do you think discovery started? Was it the moment you came home from work? Was it the moment you called me? Was it the moment we got into our first office? When did discovery start?
I think discovery started the moment that I thought of the application
Okay.
and how it would work. And working at the shift that I worked in the mornings, and I would get off and then call Nicole, and we were on the phone quite a bit, almost all the time. And it just so happens that she had started her other job, or a different career, had opened a brand new store. And I had to talk to her about this project and explain to her what this concept would entail. And it took me a little while to get her to understand what I was talking about, because it's not an easy concept to grasp if you're not in the system. And I always have a concept, if you're not in the system, you can't see the problems. So being in a retail environment, you can see that we needed something else. And it was a month-long talking with Nicole, and of course, I would throw out many, many different ideas. And with Nicole's legal background, she's going, no, we can't do that, but we can do this. And we were in discovery, and I feel like we're still in discovery, even almost a year later.
That was going to be sorry to cut you off. That was going to be my next question was, did you put a time frame on discovery, or did you just naturally let it take its course?
We had, we thought that we were going to be able to block it off and boom, we were going to run with the application. I had a long vacation in January, and we were nonstop working. January 1, we were up at 6 o'clock in the morning or at 5 o'clock in the morning working on this. We had come up with so many different ideas, and we tried to put a cap on it. It's not possible because as soon as you think it's locked in, someone else is going to tell you something that you're talking to a customer. Because if you're not listening to your customer, you might sell them something that they don't want.
Sure.
And
So being that discovery, in your opinion, shouldn't be structured or planned, how do you know how to stay on track? Because a lot of startups and a lot of people likely have amazing ideas to improve the world, but the discovery phase might derail them or get them off track and likely not be able to execute, as you like to say. You plan and then you execute. So how do you know how to stay on track during discovery and when to reel things back in?
that is a very good question. It always helps, in my opinion, it helps to have someone else on the other side of the table. That if your idea, when you're selling it to them, because everything is pretty much sales. And if I can't sell Nicole on the idea, then it's probably not a good idea. She is rather good in sales herself. There's times where she sees something and I'm like, I don't see it. And then she has to push it through, and it's a give and take. The staying on track, it's kind of hard. It does meander off to the left and off to the right. But you have to get something that you can make revenue off of. And Nicole and I are still in discovery phase, today, trying to make everything as best we can, make the customer happy with our application.
So what I gather from that is that it's good to have accountability, and it's good to have people that are working with you, working alongside of you to stay on track.
Yes.
So is it possible, if someone's watching now that has an amazing idea, to do it all themselves, to do the discovery themselves, to plan it out and to execute? Or do you need someone to stay structured, to stay on track?
You can do it yourself, but you are going to be exhausted. Running a startup with a job is difficult because all of your hours are sucked into the structure and your
And you
plan.
did run this startup while you had a job. How was that sort of working relationship?
Well, it was difficult. Nicole was able to, she shut down all of her other lines of income to come help me with this project. And I was working it still full time. As soon as I would get off work, I would come home, take care of my dog, which is Bo. He's right back over here sleeping, or right behind me sleeping. And then I would work from probably 4 o'clock until 9 o'clock every day.
Yeah.
And Nicole, when I, in the very beginning, I had to tell Nicole to stop. She was working 18-hour days. And I said, stop doing it. You're going to burn yourself out. And she was so excited about this project. It was difficult at times, knowing I needed to help her, but you can't do it alone. Sometimes you do need another person to balance. I do know quite a few entrepreneurs. It depends on what you're working on, if you can do it by yourself. But my personal opinion, in the fintech world, you're going to need another person to bounce ideas off of and to make sure things happens. And so one person can be running things and have the knowledge at times of how certain things are done, and then the other person's going to be out raising capital.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's a 2-person job.
So it's important, obviously, this discovery phase. Maybe it's the most important phase early on in the startup, to make sure you're doing it right. And a part of doing it right is to try and find out what you're actually discovering. Like, you're not just elaborating on your original idea, correct? Like, you're discovering how you're structuring the company legally, who your team is, what lines of revenue, like you mentioned, are coming in, what sort of supporting businesses and partnerships do you plan on acquiring, and you're
Logistics.
developing a detailed roadmap. So what you're discovering is just as important as the discovery itself. And what did you feel like was I guess, the most important, or maybe the biggest priority topic during discovery?
Finding out probably what we needed to do before we went and talked to developers. We had, excuse me, we had to make sure that we knew what we were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Had a small game plan. We had a business plan, of course. Nicole's background allowed it to come quickly. I know a lot of people don't believe in business plans, but some people did ask for it, so we had one. But it's important.
So sort of codifying your idea and
Yes.
sharpening those edges and cleaning things up before you hire people, would say the most
Definitely.
important thing with discovery is before you hire a contractor, like a developer or a financial analyst or a business analyst or a marketing consultant, you want to know, and your team wants to know, what you're doing as close to actuality as possible. Again, there's many pivot points that'll come and we'll speak about, but having a clear picture to give to someone you're hiring is extremely important, right?
Yes. In this particular application, we had the choice of trying to hire in-house developers, or we could go out and find someone that was either in the United States or outside of the United States and use them as a subcontractor. Nicole had quite a bit of time. She found a rather excellent company to work with, Relevant Software, and she did her due diligence on them. And when we started talking with them, we found out we needed to do more discovery. We thought we had it wrapped, and Nicole was explaining what we were doing. And at that point in time, believe it or not, Nicole and I were doing Zoom meetings with what was her she was in sales for her company.
Yeah.
She was trying to figure out what we were trying to do, and this was right at the beginning of the attack on the Ukraine, because the Relevant Software is from Ukraine. And it was a strange thing to be Zooming. I'm in a Home Depot parking lot, and Nicole's you were in Dunedin at that point in time, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of learning on those Zoom calls. They had questions that we did not even think about.
What were some of those questions that really caught you off guard, and maybe can prepare some of the people listening here? You may think you have a very clear idea, but you need to have a clear idea, and also what?
You need to know that if it's your first time getting something developed, your time frame.
Time frame.
Yes, the time frame I probably would say the most. Nicole and I thought we could get this thing developed rather quickly, and she will probably definitely tell you that we were way off.
Just in all transparency, a piece of financial technology is going to take you a year to build. And that's from discovery, from development, but then we'll get into discussions, but working with banks, working with payment processors and production testing, making sure that you have all the legal paperwork done for banks and payment processors to support you, is a long process, but it shouldn't deter you. Right, Jessica? Like
no, it shouldn't.
I mean,
I got rather lucky having your legal background to where Nicole could do all of the paperwork, which I would rather not do paperwork. I'm one of those people, I like to talk and I like to sell things. I've always been that way. And Nicole is good at what she does. But you need to make sure you do have the correct paperwork, what form of corporation or LLC or what you're doing. That is extremely important.
That's a good thing to talk about here. So discovery, building out your team, building out the timeline, building out your budget, seeking contractors or seeking employees if you're doing it in-house. And then you want to make sure that your company is formed correctly. So it's an easy Google search to find out that if you want to be a highly scalable startup, you need to be a C corporation. Most are Delaware C corporations because of the favorable business laws in Delaware. If you're an LLC or a single or partnership in your state, it might not be the best type of company that investors are going to want to invest in. Now, this doesn't mean you can have an LLC and
Which we do, we did.
which we did, and seek capital from friends and family, which we did. And that will get you off the ground and up and running. But it may create a bigger headache for you when you do realize that you want to be that highly scalable Silicon Valley-esque Google, Uber, Twitter type startup where you want to raise 20, 30, 50 million, $100 million. You're going to want to have a C corporation because of the type of investments you're seeking. But again, you can get off and running and you can build your company with an LLC and with very minimal capital. It just depends on what you're trying to develop. Jessica, looking back, would you have started with the LLC and acquired and merged like we did, or would you have started with the C Corp, or did it matter?
You know, I don't know if it mattered in the very beginning. The main thing was to get underway. And the LLC was something that you could probably might be able to do for a year and a half as a single member LLC. And as you expand, then you can roll it over into your C corporation. It was rather easy to get the LLC up and going. I think, Nicole, did it take you less than 15 minutes that day that we had it created?
Yeah, forming a company is extremely easy, but it's what you do afterwards that is going to take time. You know, Jessica and I might have opposing views on this, and I want to see what you have to say now. But being that we're talking about discovery and what to do with that idea, I say that the moment that idea comes, you are a sprinter on that 40-yard line, and you need to run as fast as you can and either fall face down or go through that finish line. There's no jogging from an idea phase to hiring contractors and development phase in that next phase. In my opinion, you are running as fast as you can, because when that idea strikes and when you have that light bulb moment, it's not going to last forever. So unless you start building something that you can build that next phase on, it's very important that you are flying by the seat of your pants. And do you agree or disagree?
Yes, I do agree. And you're probably shocked.
I am.
I think that in the beginning, when I was at Home Depot, it was hard for me to want it to go as fast as it was going. I am I'm not slow, methodical, but I like to take my time and look at things before I dive into them. Nicole is, she's a sprinter, and I would have to jump on her coattails to keep up with her. She works faster than I think most people do, which is good because you don't want to be waiting around. If your idea is fresh and new, someone else might have it on the planet. We all pull imagination from I don't know where, but other people get the same idea. Are they going to act on it? Maybe not. But Nicole and I saw this idea and we ran as fast as we could. You are going to make a mistake. There's no way around it. It's not going to go smoothly. There's going to be problems and hiccups that come up in your face, and having that extra person when something comes up is critical. If you do not know what you're doing, ask somebody. There's a lot of people who have been in the industry for years, and I've asked them questions, and some of them
And
just
now,
opened up.
were you able to ask and find out these answers for free?
Yes.
Yeah.
I went to FinTech South in Atlanta. It was my first FinTech or financial technology conference. We were overwhelmed the very first day. It's completely set up different from what I thought it was going to be. But on the second day, when we were doing our breakout sessions, you had to ask questions to the people who've already done it. We had 4 speakers per room. And after each session, I would go ask them questions. I would get their LinkedIn information so I could, when I got back to Orlando, I could, ask them even more questions. And we did meet somebody who told us something that we needed to know with our application and has really helped us. I could reach out and touch and talk to him at any point in time and get some information. It's fun watching his program go.
Yeah.
We can't watch it as much as we want to, but because
Yeah.
we're busy.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you enjoyed the first episode about discovery. We are going to be completely different than any other podcast or show about co-founders and the financial technology and startup space there is. We aim to be completely transparent, tell you everything we did and everything we learned and everything we think you shouldn't do. Thank you for tuning in to Create a FinTech Startup. My name is Nicole.
I'm
That's
Jessica.
Jessica, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great day.